Hello, I'm Lizelle Sambry and welcome back to my channel where I talk about all things writing, traditional publishing, and a little bit of reading. And Happy New Year! Welcome to 2024, and I'm very excited to start off this year with my first video being my project update. So I'm going to talk about in this video everything that I kind of accomplished from the middle of 2023 to the end of 2023. I'm going to discuss which projects I'm going to continue working on in 2024. So you've already heard me talk about this project in the past, and now I'm going to continue working on it. And I'm also going to talk about some new things that I'm going to be working on in 2024 as well. And so that's what this whole video is going to be. It's going to be very specific to writing projects, and I'm going to also give a little intro to every project when I talk about it as well. So if you are new to my channel and you haven't heard me talk about this project before, you'll get to hear a little summary about it as well. I do have timestamps linked down below, so if there's certain content you're more interested in watching or learning about, you can feel free to jump around. But otherwise, let's go ahead and get started. Let's start with projects that I completed in 2023, and the first of those is Tender Beasts. This is coming out on February 27th. It's a young adult psychological thriller / horror following Sunny, whose private school is rocked by a series of grisly murders, and when her brother is accused, they'll have to work together to find the real killer. Only she's not so sure that her brother is as innocent as he says he is. So it's got lots and lots of family drama. It's got a very creepy killer called the Milkman, private school setting. It's also set in Toronto. Just a lot of great things in this book. I'm very, very excited to be sharing it with everyone this year. And I also do have a pre-order / library request campaign going on for this book. So if you pre-order it or you request that your library stock it, you can get a bunch of like cool swag items, and you can also be entered into a really cool prize pack that you can win. So I'll have a link in the description to check all of those details out. If you wanna learn more about the book, or you want to get involved in that campaign and like get some really cool swag. I mean, I think it's some pretty fun stuff. So yeah, that is Tender Beasts, and I finished working on that last year, which is great because it's coming out very, very soon, and so I definitely needed to get that done. In the latter half of 2023, I essentially was working on past pages for it, so I did 2 kind of passes of those past pages, and I was really thankful to them because in that first past page there were some kind of little turns of phrase and things that I was using that I kind of thought, oh, should I cut this out? But then I was unsure, and then it felt like a lot to kind of do in this late stage, and I wondered if maybe I was just like getting in my head or being nitpicky. And then the particular proofreader that we had went through and was like, you don't need to have this, cut this, and it was all the stuff that I was thinking about cutting, and I was like, oh yay, amazing, you've done it. This is exactly what I thought I should do. And so I'm really, really, really happy now with the final of what is going to be printed, because that prose has been really tightened significantly, and I'm really happy about that. And in the future I will remember to not be afraid to do those things, because I got to do whatever makes the book the best that it's going to be. It's also really cool because this is my first book that has like formatted text messages with like little bubbles and stuff. Like, I'm so excited about it. It's got really cool header art too on the chapter pages. Yeah, I just can't wait for people to get their hands on this one. And it's also really fun. I think it is the sort of thing that I think people who enjoy Delicious Monsters will also like Tender Beasts, but I also think people with maybe Delicious Monsters wasn't for them, I think Tender Beasts will be a great book to be like, you should try this one. It is significantly more fast-paced, even though it is also a little bit shorter. I think it's like 100 pages shorter or something like that. So it's a little bit more fast-paced, and it's a little bit more of like a different style. I feel like it's a little bit more thriller end, a little bit more like that, and there's a lot of like mysteries and twists and turns, and yeah, I think it's very exciting. And I think a lot of the kind of family elements that come into basically all of my books is also present in Tender Beasts, but it was great to be able to do like an ensemble family cast again, because that's what I really loved about Blood Like Magic and Blood Like Fate. So it was great to return to that, and also to return to the setting of Toronto. So that was just like a really fun process of finishing up that book. The next project that I completed in 2023 was my short story in the All These Sunken Souls anthology, edited by Circe Moskowitz. So I did my mid-year kind of catch-up last year, and I was like, I think this is the last edit, and that did in fact end up being the last edit of the book that I did. And so it came out in October, and yeah, I'm really happy with how my story came out. I wrote about a sleepover gone wrong, and I think that's kind of as much as I want to say about it. But yeah, it's in here. And then also in October, when I got my final copy, I read through the entire anthology, which I hadn't done when we got past pages because I wanted to wait for the final versions to read those. And they were all so good. Like, this is really, I know I'm in it, so I'm biased, but I think this is a really strong, really great anthology. There were so many stories in here that I just absolutely loved. And there were already a lot of authors that I knew, but it was great also to discover some like authors whose work I hadn't read before yet. And so I was a very big fan of this anthology and very happy that I got to participate. And then I want to talk about another anthology, and so this anthology is the Today I Am anthology, edited by J.L. Richardson. So in my mid-year kind of project check-in, I was finished working on this story already, but it hadn't been announced yet or like made public, and so I couldn't talk about it, and so that's why I've put it into this update so I can talk about it and introduce you to it. And so this is an anthology of stories of belonging by BIPOC Canadian authors, and so it's all different genres. And so what I wrote is I wrote about a girl trying to save her parents' space potato farm, and that is the story that I have in there. And this anthology is going to come out in August of this year. I will link Goodreads down below if you want to check it out and learn more about it. And we will have a cover reveal down the road, so if you follow me on things like Instagram, I will post when the cover gets revealed there. But yeah, I'm excited to finally be able to talk about it and like say the name of the anthology, because I feel like for so long I was like, I can't say anything. And so I did finish working on that by the middle of the year last year, and then we had a little bit of timeline switching around, so it's exciting also to have a final release date coming out, and I'm very excited for you all to read my little space potato farm story. There is also a giant crab, because for me, if I'm writing middle grade, I'm really gonna have fun. I'm really gonna get out there and do some fun stuff. So which I do fun stuff with my YA too, but I feel like in middle grade I can do like fun silly stuff, which I really enjoy getting to do. So that's the Today I Am anthology. And then for projects completed in 2023, I'm going to finish off talking about the fantasy romance anthology that I had talked about. So in the past I talked about this. I wrote a story. It's based on Caribbean folklore. It's a fantasy romance, and I couldn't really say too many details because this anthology hadn't been announced yet. But now what has happened is the anthology is no longer going to be put out by that publisher, and so that is not happening in that way anymore. It might be put out through a new publisher, but in that sort of swap we were kind of asked about like if we're still on board, and I decided to take a step back from the project and to no longer participate. So it still might come out, it still might be announced and become a thing, but I will no longer be involved in it. And the reasoning for that is just kind of in 2022, if you've watched my channel, you know I said yes to a bunch of anthologies, and it was a lot of work. I think I really underestimated how much work it would be to produce a short story and be part of an anthology. I think I thought because I was like, oh, it's like a 5,000 or whatever word story, it's not going to take up that much time, but it in fact really does. And I didn't realize like how much it would add to my plate, especially because it has deadlines and that sort of thing. And so because of the way deadlines are structured, like I don't get to pick when I'm going to work on it. And so sometimes it was happening where I was now suddenly, because of the way deadlines were, I had to work on a bunch of different things all at once, and it became kind of overwhelming. And I decided, just thinking about 2024 and the fact that I will also be putting an adult book on submission at some point during this year, more about that later. And I was like, if that gets purchased, I will now have to start working on that book this year as well. And I was like, so that would mean my YA, which is now a series, also the adult, also the anthology. And I was just kind of like, it was a bit too much for me. And I think because I had already been signed up, I was cool with like continuing and going forward in the process. But because things had gotten kind of rejigged with how this turned out, and it was this situation now where like I had the choice to step back if I wanted to, and that editor could then find someone new and move forward with that book and submission with someone that like has the time and is very gung-ho. And I decided that was the best way to do that. Even though I had written the story and edited the story already, for me, the kind of like building anxiety of just being like, well, I'm still gonna have to edit, and like, what if there are significant edits? What if I have to change a lot of the story? What I have to do a lot of different things, and it just like, I could feel the overwhelm building in my body. And I decided that it was just best for me to no longer contribute in this case. And so that's what's going on with that fantasy anthology. And so that is my time with it. So I probably won't be chatting about it anymore in that case. But if it does end up like coming out and like going to another publisher and becoming its own thing, I will very happily share what it is on this channel so that you can go and read it and support the authors that are part of it. Because I know from who was signed up originally, there are a lot of amazing authors involved in it. It's also being edited by a fantastic author. And so I have all wishes for that anthology to do super, super well. It's just, I know that I don't really have the capacity in terms of like work and headspace to be a part of it anymore. So that is the update for that. Now I'll talk about my continued projects for 2024. So these are things that I started working on in 2023 or even continued in 2023, and that I will continue to work on in 2024. And the first of those is A Mastery of Monsters. This is my YA dark academia fantasy that is coming out next year. It's about a girl who is forced to team up with a monstrous boy in a deadly competition to save her brother, and also the boy's humanity. So that is basically the book. It's set at my alma mater, Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario, and I'm very, very excited about it. I think it is so fun. It's really been fun to write, and I feel like it's a really fun book. I feel like so often in books I like go in and I've got a bit of an agenda, you know, I've got something that I want to push, and I feel like this is one where I was like, anime vibes, like I'm trying to write a shonen, I want to go in and have fun. And of course I naturally ended up writing, you know, big theming, and it is a dark academia, so I do critique academia in it, but I feel like this is really just like a really fun book with the deadly competition. So there's a lot of competition mechanics, there's a lot of like fight scenes and stuff, and it's got this big ensemble cast, and it's got very much this like, you know, it's got a family feeling, but it's also got this big like found family feeling, and I really, really like that. Because that's something I haven't done as much in my books, that like big sort of found family type vibe. So very, very excited about it. And so I did my first developmental edit of that. I finished that in 2023. I did very fortunately and unexpectedly end up getting more time to work on this than I thought I would have, which was really, really exciting. And so I was able to add an extra week on, and I could have added more time on. I really could have worked on it for more. But I was able to take more time with it, which is really great for me, because I really, as well as doing the developmental edit, I really got to clean up the prose a lot, which I was really happy about. And so overall, I'm just really excited about the direction of this. And so we will be basically right in January going forward with doing the second developmental edit of A Mastery of Monsters. We also have a sensitivity reader feedback that I need to incorporate in this edit as well. And so very kind of like, yeah, hit the ground running. It's the new year. Here we go working on this book. But yeah, I'm very, very excited about the idea of, you know, coming into completion of this, and really getting closer to that, you know, the final form, if you will, of the book. But yeah, very, very excited about this one. And the last continued project from 2023 is the Couples Retreat. This is my adult thriller, in which we are following a couple who decide to sign up for this resort in order to fix their relationship, and try out a, you know, controversial new technology that the resort is implementing, and kind of end up with a bit more than they bargained for. So that is the Couples Retreat. This one last year ended up getting a little bit more derailed than I wanted it to, just because of how A Mastery of Monsters edits ended up coming through, and I really had to keep shifting around when I worked on the Couples Retreat, and then I ended up feeling a little bit tired / burned out towards the end of the year, and that also made it difficult. And so I felt like I kept having to move things around. And so my original goal was to be on submission with the Couples Retreat like now, like in the beginning, like right now in the beginning of the year. But obviously that is not what ended up happening. And I just told you that I have to work on A Mastery of Monsters edits in January, so I'm also not going to get to work on it this month. But I have set out time to work on it in February. And so this will be me doing my beta reader and my agent edits. I've already been working on these somewhat in like getting the edits planned. And so I just have to kind of finish out planning all my edits. These have been a little bit more significant because I ended up adding a bunch of things to both the beginning and the ending part, and so I do have kind of like a good chunk of work cut out for me. But yeah, I'm hoping to spend a week in February just kind of going back to everything that I had been planning and kind of solidifying those and making sure I have everything in order. And then I'm hopeful that I can, in the next couple weeks, perhaps 3 weeks, we'll see how things go, I can kind of go through and make all of those edits and be able to have something nice and polished to show my agent by the end of the month. And my ultimate hope is to get this project on submission in May or April. But I'm not in a rush with this. I want to make that clear. I don't need to sell a book this year. I don't need to financially, in terms of like having income. I don't need to sell a book. And so it's very kind of like, this takes the time it takes. And if I need to take more time to edit it, then I need to take more time to edit it. And I have to be mindful of the fact that I'm moving this around, working on A Mastery of Monsters, you know, working on what I already have contracted. But I'm really, really wanting to get this one out there. I'm really excited about the idea of getting to jump into the adult space and to jump into a new age category. But yeah, I'm really not rushing myself, and I keep reminding myself of that because this does not need to be rushed. I have all the time in the world to get this set up and get this ready for sale. And so yeah, it would be nice in April or May, just because then I could kind of like kick it off my plate and not think about it for a bit while it's on submission. But we'll see. So that's kind of my plan for that one. I had this moment where I was like, I should plan for another book. Like, what if maybe there might be a 2-book deal opportunity and I want to like already have something plotted, or like maybe it like doesn't do well in submission. I already want to have something ready to go. And I was just like, I had to really calm myself down, and I was like, is that what you should be doing? Or should you perhaps spend more time doing other things that are more urgent and just see how submission goes and like chill and calm down? Because usually when you have a standalone and a publisher is offering a 2-book deal, they might want to hear loosely about what you have ideas for other books, but they are not expecting a plot summary or like a proposal or anything. So there's really no point in me prepping that unless I literally have nothing else to do and I'm like bored. So I pulled myself back from that. I'm not going to be doing that. So my only goal for the couples retreat is to get its submission ready and then yeet it off on submission and then just not think about it from that point on until, you know, something happens with it. So those are my plans for the couples retreat. And yeah, that's kind of what I'm going to be doing this year with it. And now on to new projects for 2024. I always find this to be the most exciting section, I think, because I've been working on other stuff this whole time, so I'm like so excited to talk about something new. But new projects for 2024, perhaps, obviously, it will be the sequel to A Mastery of Monsters, which I do have a title for, but I won't say because I don't know if it's gonna stick, but also, like, if it does stick, then I want to like tease it later on. I don't want to reveal everything right now. So because the deadline for that book will be October 1st, I do like to try and think about sequels early on, especially because in case of something that I might plan in the sequel, I might want to put something in the first book. And so I want to kind of get that plan in place as early as possible so that I can go and add those things into the first book if I need to before it's completely done. And so A Mastery of Monsters is a 2-book deal. I have planned this, or my idea for this is as a 3-book series. And I probably won't know if my publisher is going to buy the 3rd book until like very, very later on. I don't even know if I'm going to learn this year. I don't know what sort of metrics or whatever it is that they use to decide whether they're going to do that or not, which puts me in a little bit of a pickle in terms of planning this 2nd book because I'm not sure if I'm going to get to write the 3rd book or not. And so what I've decided to do is I'm going to plot out / plan the 2nd and 3rd book together, so at the same time. So I'd like to kind of chunk out a month for myself to work on this, and so my plan is to plan out the 2nd book like fully, like the full plotter thing that I usually do, and then to plan out the main beats and the main kind of character details and changes of the 3rd book at the same time. So kind of the 3rd book would be a more general plan because I think fully plotting both of them out would be a lot, especially if I might not get to write the 3rd book. But just so that I know everything that I'm planning to put in both the 2nd and the 3rd books. And that way, going forward from there, if for whatever reason, if unfortunately I don't get to write the 3rd book, I can at least look at them both and be like, okay, what do I need to take from one or the other and put together in order to get what I want? And I might shift that a little bit. Like I might end up planning the 2nd book more generally, a little bit more than I thought I might, and less in detail until later on in the year when I can kind of be like, okay, what's really happening? It really depends, but the kind of major thing is that I do want to plot these 2 books together because I really want to know what solidly is at least the key point plan for both of those, so I just know what the full long game is. That will allow me to adjust for the 1st book, that will allow me to, at least if my editor asks and is like, so what are your plans for this whole series, before we kind of decide if we want to do another book, I can at least say this is what's going to happen in this book and this is what's going to happen in the other book. So that is my plan, and I do think I will probably need a dedicated month to do that, and so I'm hoping to get that done pretty much kind of as soon as I finish those big edits for the couples retreat, but we'll see. I might have to move things around because again, this is the project I'm on contract for, but again, I don't need that first draft until October 1st, and I know it'll probably take me a month or 2 to draft the book, so I do have some leeway in which I can kind of push it a little bit down further in the year if needed. But yeah, that's kind of my plan for going forward with those next 2 books in the series, because I know that I'm going to have to write the 2nd book this year, and at some point I need to know what it is that I'm writing. So this is going to be a very new experience for me. So yeah, if you follow along, you'll get to see that whole saga of how this goes over. And then the last new thing for 2024, which I'm really excited to talk about because I haven't actually talked about it with anyone. So it's literally, and it feels like that TikTok sound where it's like, this is an idea I've had since this morning and I'm not giving up now. And that's very much what it feels like because I have not even spoken this aloud to anyone. So here you go, YouTube, getting the exclusive. And so the last new project for 2024 I have planned is I have a novella project that I'd like to do. So I will caveat this with saying this is very much a push goal sort of project thing. This is not something that I'm like setting in stone in the calendar. This is purely something where it's like, if I have time, like if there's a time where I am free, I feel rested, I have no other obligations, I have some time to myself and I want to work on this, then I'm going to work on it. But this isn't something where it's going to be like, I'm going to squish it in to fit it in somewhere because I have to do it this year and I'm going to smush it in somewhere just so I can get it done. Absolutely not the case. This is very much like a fully passion project sort of thing. And if I have time for it at some point during the year, then I will absolutely do it and I'd love to do it. But otherwise, I won't be doing it. And I've basically decided that I pretty much need like 2 weeks to do this. And so at any point in the year, if I have 2 weeks to do it, I'll do it. But if not, maybe next year, maybe never, who knows? But I've had this idea and so I would really like to do it. And I'm not going to get really into the super details of it. I'm just going to say that it is an adult literary horror. I know, literary horror. I feel like I haven't, like I wrote adult literary short stories in university and I feel like I was just like, nope, not for me. And I moved on from it and I never thought this is something that I'd come back to or want to do. But I ended up having this idea and it just kind of struck me and I was like, yes, I absolutely want to write that. And I want it to be literary. Like I'm not trying to do a commercial thing. Like I want this to be very much an examination and a thought process and a real sort of thinking thing. And I can say that like generally the subject is going to be about body image and diet culture. I feel like this is something that I've been on a very long journey and continuing journey in, and the idea of getting to do something kind of small and compact to really like dive deep into the horror of that and to really talk about it in a literary sense and to work to flex literary muscles is something that I'm really excited about doing. And I talked about this a little bit last year, but I really do want to get more into like really studying and really working hard on my prose. And I think this is something I've always, tried to work on, but I think because I've had such like a commercial focus, that's been kind of the thing I've cared about. And then when I do literary things in the commercial things, I'm like, yeah, you're doing it. But I find it would be really challenging to me and really exciting to do something in which I'm really thinking about the prose first and foremost as like, the big vehicle for showing theme, and it's less an entertainment piece. I'm sure that it'll still be entertaining because that's the way I am, but like really like a vehicle for talking about a message and having a discussion. And I think it would be nice to get to really push myself in that way with prose. I also have this book. It's like Writing in the Dark, which is like a horror writing craft book, but this one is for poetry. And I really like the idea of like taking some time to like study poetry and like trying to pull that into this novella idea and like put that together. And I'm really excited about the project of that. And so this is very, very a passion project because to me, like the market for traditionally publishing novella is very, very small. In my head, that market is Tor. That's it. It's Tor.com. If you want to traditionally publish a novella that is like horror or fantasy or sci-fi themed, that's it. One-stop shop, baby. And I know it isn't. I know it very much isn't. There are many places people can publish novellas, but that's just like in my head of when I think of traditional publishing. And so to me, it's not really a project where I'm like, yeah, I want to like go and get this published. It's not that same sort of energy that I have with my other commercial works in which the goal is to get it published. This is a project in which the goal is to write it and the goal is to put it together, and the goal is like the experience of doing it, and what happens with it after I'm very laissez-faire about. I probably will just like be like, I guess I'll show it to my agent and we'll see if we want to send it to tour or something. But I would also like, this is something that I could see myself just self-publishing and just kind of sharing with people in that way, or even just like sharing for freezies. just sharing on the web with no monetary attachment. Who knows, I could do anything with it. And so it's very, that's why I call it, that's why I say that it's very passion project in that way, and I just want to write it. So that's really why I'm also putting no pressure on like time and like if I'm going to be able to do that. But that is something I would love to work on this year if I could. And so that's kind of my plan for that. I do have more detailed ideas for it, but I won't really get into it here. But if I end up doing it, I will definitely do a whole dedicated vlog just to that project, and it'll be its own separate video thing, separate from any other vlogs, and I'll just kind of share it as its own kind of experiment. But yeah, I'm very excited by the prospect of that one. So that's the kind of last new project for 2024, potential new project. And so that is the full project update. I think what I'm really looking forward to with this sort of workload for the year is that it does feel less, which is really what I'm hoping for. I want to focus in a lot more, I think, and I talked about this a little bit in my end of the year wrap up / reflection. I will link that down below if you want to check that out. But I feel like in previous years, I've in some ways like wasted energy or like made things harder for myself by trying to do a bunch of extra things. I'm kind of in anticipation of things or trying to get different stuff done, and it's kind of added workload. And I'm really pulling back from this year. This is also the first year, I think, since I've been writing full time where I did not apply for a Canada Arts grant. I've been very fortunate in that I have had enough advance-wise that I've been able to work it out properly, which I didn't do so much in the past, but I've been able to work it out properly, so that I have enough in the year on that project alone. And so I will get to, you know, have at the very least this year of being like, I really don't need to sell anything. I really don't need extra money from a grant in order to live. And so that has also saved me in terms of like having extra workload, because I only have one deadline that I'm beholden to for this whole year, which I think has become very rare for me. But that's it. My deadline is the deadline for A Mastery of Monsters, and for that deal, and that is it. And anything else is extra, is secondary. There's no urgency to it. And so that's really nice for me, because I know if push comes to shove and I'm having a rough time this year in terms of like workload, I can just stop everything that is not A Mastery of Monsters and like chill on it, at least for this year, which is really helpful project wise for me. And I'm hoping that there will still be enough variety that like my vlogs and things coming out won't be boring, because sometimes I worry when I start working on less projects, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be boring to see me work on the same thing over and over again. But that is kind of how it goes. And I'm hopeful that I will get to work on some different things. Like I would really love to get to do that novella project, and I feel like based on the workload that I'm going into this year with, I do feel really hopeful that I will actually get to do that, because it's 2 weeks in the year. I feel like I could find 2 weeks somewhere, but again, not pressuring myself. But yeah, I'm really hopeful. I'm really excited about a no pressure year. I'm excited about like seeing the entirety of the Mastery Monsters series kind of come together in my mind, and hopefully sooner rather than later I'll kind of get an answer for whether that's going to be that full 3 books or just the 2. But yeah, those are how the projects are going. I will have a mid-year project update. I do that in the middle of the year, so that I can kind of catch you up on everything that's happened from the beginning of the year. And otherwise, that's really it for me in this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And thank you so much for watching. Bye!